How we doing, chat? Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome in, Pablo. Welcome in, Ken. So yeah, slight change of plans since yesterday. Obviously, we were planning on running these on Mondays at 8 p.m. I think a lot kind of went on Sunday for the England football fans. So I ended up not sleeping for about 48 hours. So I thought, let's postpone this a day and we'll go with a Tuesday start instead. So I do have Jacob here in the commentary box as well. After spending a week and a bit over in Europe, tended to Spa 24, punched a bunch of laps around the Nürburgring. How are we doing, Jacob? Yeah, I think that was. I mean, it was probably a good time to go in terms of terms of the weather, but I think it was a bit too hot, wasn't it? I think we've got like 40 degrees over here. Yeah, I remember you messaged me beginning of the week, I think it was, saying that your tire pressures got up to like ridiculous amounts or something. And always check them before you go out on track. Welcome in, Pablo. Yes, this is GT3 at Daytona International Speedway. It is the road course. Um, yeah, we are about half an hour into practice. Got 12 minutes to go. This was a voted for track. We wasn't sure what to run today, so we did put a poll out on Sunday morning to see what people would prefer, either Sebring or Daytona. I thought it's been a while since we went to America, so let's go with one of the two of the best, what I think, American circuits in the iRacing calendar. Yeah, I feel like I'm still Road America out from the week off that I had. To be fair, I do like Sebring. Sebring's a track that I want to get good at, um, but it's quite a technical track. So yeah, the last time we were here at Daytona was at the beginning of the year. So at the beginning of the year, we were obviously practicing for, I think it was back when season one for this year on the iRacing calendar. It was Daytona on the first circuit, and we also had obviously the Daytona 24 sort of pushing towards the end of January, which was a great race. We had quite a few drivers here at Refine Motorsport doing their first 24 hours here. Um, so always a good track to come back to. So yeah, we are half an hour into the session at the moment, 10 minutes remaining. It's going to be the standard race format that you see here during the Fine Motorsport races, which is the 45 minutes of practice, just to give the drivers a bit of time to get warmed up and acclimatised to the track. We'll jump into a open qualifying session, which should be fairly clear today, considering there's currently only 14 drivers on the field. And then we'll be jumping into a 1 hour race with the IMSA car regulations. So there will be a mandatory pit stop just due to the fuel limitations. Drivers are not obliged to take tyres, so it's up to them how they want to sort of handled the strategy for this race. Over the last couple of weeks of running these races, we have seen a couple of the drivers pulling out some of the sort of fuel saving strategies and getting to the end of the race. For those that don't, it's caused a little bit of carnage coming into the last 2 laps of the race, as we sort of approach that 55 to 58 minute mark, as drivers dive into the pits to do a last second splash and dash.
See whether that could be a possibility, but I think it will be tough to get all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think fuel saving here is definitely going to be a difficult one, and I think that also might catch some of the drivers out. I mean, we saw Ken Backen over the last 2 races trying to pull off the one-stop strategy, managed it a couple of times. Those that do try this again this week could be bitten out by that. It might not be enough.
Radio check.
Sure.
Thank you.
So if you are wanting to join this session, if you do a search in the hosted sessions on iRacing for Refined Motorsport, you'll find the Remo broadcasted session for Daytona in there. It is not password protected. You're more than welcome to join. This race will be fully stewarded all the way through from start to finish. So drive-throughs, penalties, handing positions, doing our best to monitor everything that's going on as we see Owen Newman launching the front end of the car up and over the last stop chicane.
Yeah, these not even that new now, but the serrated teeth at the bus stop made for an interesting Daytona 24 this year. They could be quite murderous, and especially in an endurance race, you really got to be careful because you take that slightly wrong and you just get spat out into the wall. We certainly had a driver on our team who got a couple meatballs by doing that. He still somehow managed to bring the car back to P2, I think it was, or P3. But yeah, you really got to be careful.
Yeah, I remember back in the day before the update, and the curbs were pretty much non-existent, and you could just fully send it over there. But yeah, I think
those were the days.
I remember doing this in GTP after the update for the Daytona 6 hour, and yeah, that definitely caught me out a few times. But again, just brings that sort of realism back to the track as well. Gives the drivers something else to think about, especially during this the long banking left-hand turns. It's something to last forever here.
Yeah, you start to get a bit bored on these, especially if you're kind of in your own race. But certainly when you're in a pack, it does become, quite a bit of a slipstream battle.
Yeah, something that I wanted to definitely talk about is how effective we think draft here, the slipstream, is going to be in terms of drivers just not sort of driving off into the distance.
It's definitely a big part of things. You have to see whether people work together. I know there's a couple of people in here from the same team, and realistically there are no regulations really in iRacing. Well, it might be somewhere in the sporting code, but no one follows that. Bump drafting is kind of allowed. We have no plans to try and implement anything stopping that. It would be a bit of a ball ache to try and stop that from a stewarding perspective. Well, as we watch Nico have a moment on the curb, spin it. So yeah, if you buddy up, start bump drafting, or just, you don't even have to bump draft, just working together on the straights with the slipstream, it can really help you out.
Yeah, so a mix of drivers again today, ranging from 1200 iRating, which is the minimum requirement for iRating to get into the session, all the way up to a 4.4k driver. of Owen Newman, who's currently running, sorry, Tommy Vidal, currently 5.1k, Owen Newman 4.4k.
I think Tommy may have disconnected. I cannot see him.
So yeah, I think anybody sort of looking for or looking to gauge what the lap times are going to be today, I think as the track temperature drops, we might see drivers into the 143s. I think we saw 142s back in January. Obviously, there's a larger pool of drivers to sort of take that data from. But yeah, 143 is definitely plausible today.
We're seeing a lot of people in the 145s at the moment. I think for the field, 145 is kind of the average pace at the moment. You know, in the practice session, everyone from P2 down to P7, it's around that area. They're all kind of within half a second.
So coming into the last 4 minutes of the open practice session at the moment, Tommy Vidal currently topping the leaderboard with a 144.8, 6 tenths quicker than Owen Newman, who we're watching on screen at the moment in the Corvette. Ethan Turner returning back for the 5th week here at Daytona, currently with a P3 lap time. Incredible drive last week over at Spa, coming from P33 up into P5 to finish the race. Ethan Turner definitely looking for that meta drive at the moment, as we see him in the Ford Mustang. Has the fastest straight line speed of all the GT3 cars.
Actually, let's say I think Porsche has the fastest straight line speed. It's just dog shit everywhere else, but at Daytona, it works. You're seeing a lot of Porsches here. I think if I remember correctly, before the BOP was applied, the Daytona 24 Porsche was definitely one of the strongest. Also, Acura can be quite strong here. Seeing Owen in that. It's one of the only places you actually see people driving the Acura is Daytona. It's kind of a dead car everywhere else. Just the nature of this track does tend to change the cars that people are driving. Like a lot less in terms of like Ferraris and McLarens, like and things like that.
Yeah, I think Daytona back at the beginning of the year, I think there was the sort of running joke that we were in Porsche Cup, with the amount of Porsches that we were seeing on the grid.
Yep.
It's Karsten Havdahl. It's a black flag, probably due to a unsafe pit entry. Let's talk about the pit entry here at Daytona. It's quite a tricky one.
Yeah, you're really high speed, like you're coming in almost VMAX, and you get that braking wrong, it can go bad pretty quick. We actually had a moment in our Daytona 24 where one of the drivers well, there was one driver on our team who proceeded to get all of the meatballs and everyone else kept it clean. But we had some rain in that session, and as the track dried up, we went back to slicks because there was a dry line. And remember, as he's coming about to pit for the end of his stint, I said to him, "The pit entry is still wet. Be very careful." And he was like, "Yep, I will." He went on that pit entry, hit a puddle on slicks, and just flew straight into the grass.
Yeah, I find the small kink in the left-hander coming out of the pit lane as well can be sometimes a little trickier than people think. It sort of tightens up on you, and it's quite easy to hit that outside barrier.
It's not flat out, so you got to be a bit careful with it.
You're riding on board with Ethan Turner in the Ford Mustang GT3, currently with a 145.6 as he bounces over that entry and exit curb of the bus stop chicane. It's Mustang eating those curbs.
Yeah, the GT3s, you do take those a bit more. I remember in LMP2s, it's very much kind of just clip them. You don't really want to go over them. The GT3s can do them a bit more, but if you take it wrong, it doesn't take much for it to just spit you out.
Sure does. Right, let's have a quick chat with the drivers. Good evening, everyone. Welcome into the Refined Motorsport Public Open session here at Daytona. We do have a stewarded session today as well. So we've got Jacob Reed stewarding this race. Any incidents will be dealt with accordingly. We might be issuing black flags, drive-throughs, disqualifications where necessary, yellow flags and safety cars. Also, where necessary, there is unlimited fast repairs as well, so if you do have any incidents in the race, it's not necessarily your race over. You will be able to box for a fast repair and rejoin behind a safety car, and we'll be issuing wave buys as well, just to make sure we'll try and keep everybody on the same lap. If you are wanting to come watch the stream as well, we are doing a broadcasted stream over on Refine Motorsport social channels, so Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. You'll be able to watch that there live or check it out after the race as well. Feel free to come and join the Discord. Discord details are in the session details when you joined. Feel free to come and join over there. You'll be able to see all of the upcoming races going forwards as well. It's going to be an open qualifying session, so 15 minutes of open qualifying followed by a 1 hour race with the IMSA regulations in terms of fueling and pit stops and all that jazz. If you guys need us to review any incidents as well, just give us a shout over voice chat and we'll try to analyse and review. But enjoy qualifying, enjoy the race, guys, and yeah, good luck. So, Open Quali has just kicked off, already a minute and a half in. Still waiting to see drivers out on field. I think Gus,
we have got a few. What I'm really looking to see here is who's going to be either working together or trying to position their car in the traffic to get that slipstream. It's not something you usually get in qualifying, and especially here, the slipstream can be the difference here between, you know, being like P10 or pole. If you go out there and you're not in tow and someone else is in the tow, it doesn't matter how fast you are, the likelihood is you're not beating them. So that's definitely going to be a big factor. I'm seeing Anders Ludwig is in a pretty good place behind Tommy Vidal, someone who he's positioned himself behind a very fast driver, 5.1k, but that slipstream is probably going to keep him with him, and he's not going to get held up in traffic because in the corners Tommy's probably going to be faster. But if you can keep within that tow on the straights, that's really going to help him in qualifying.
Yep, seeing a few of the drivers driving the RAA livery. I think these are all the Norwegian guys from, I think, Ken Bakken, who's brought these over. So we've still got the usual Norwegians here: Ken Bakken, Karsten Havdal. I think there's a couple of others as well. Gus Jonker as well, I believe. So yeah, a couple of sort of fair amount of drivers that have been here running these for the last couple of weeks. As we see a couple of drivers still trying to warm up their tyres. I mean, I think that's definitely going to be another important factor in setting this qualifying time. It's very easy to sort of lose temperature as soon as you get onto the outer section of the track. You see that temperature sort of die off. It takes about 2, maybe 3 laps to get your tyres up to temperature into the window where you can set decent and consistent lap times.
Yeah, a lot of straights here. It's quite cool track temp here at the moment. Let me actually just double check what it is. 24 degrees C. So it does take a bit of time, especially with like the track surface as well. It's not like a really high grip track surface.
It's definitely a track that looks fabulous at night time as well. I had to pick a nighttime race here at Daytona, having the entire track lit. It does look phenomenal. As we get our first couple of lap times on the board, Tommy Vidal, the 1:45.7.
Morton Dale and Tommy Vidal, I think they're working together here. They're in the same livery. They're around about each other within the slipstream. Yeah, as Morton lets Tommy Vidal through, so now he's got to play the chase, start getting the slipstream. and is a bit also behind, starting to get within that range, or almost within the slipstream as well.
Do you just want to make sure we are definitely running trading paints here and we've got all the liveries loaded in? Seems peculiar seeing everybody running identical liveries.
From what I can see, I think there's just a fair few of the same liveries.
So, driver to, again, keep an eye on throughout this race is Karstine Havdal. Incredible performance over the last 2 weeks. Been managed to pull off that fuel saving strategy pretty well. Ended up on the podium last week and won the race back at Alton Park. Very clean, consistent driver as well. So let's find somebody to keep an eye on. I've got Nico Balderrama in the Porsche 911. Nico not having the best of races last week.
Owen making his way up to P3. He doesn't pull over, so maybe he hasn't fueled for the whole rate, for the whole qualifying session. Maybe you just put a normal quali setup on. I think especially in these track temps at Daytona, you want to fuel for the whole session, because a standard quali setup, which only gets you 2 flying laps, there's time to be gained because there's still temperature to be made in those tires. Like in probably like lap 3 or 4 is when they're actually going to be in their optimum window. So it's a bit different to what people are used to, and sometimes if they're not really experienced with that, they're going to be just putting a quali setup on and going out and having to pit again to get fuel.
Riding on board with the current pole sitter, Tommy Vidal in the Porsche 911. It's just coming out of bus stop through the long left-handed bank before the start-finish line. So as we do come across start-finish line, we're looking for those cones on the left-hand side of the track. Braking long and deep all the way up into the apex, trying to hold the rear end of the car together, especially in this Porsche. Keeping it nice and tight through the S's of turn 2. Braking at the end of the pit lane. Down into first or second gear. You can run the track out nice and wide over the line, touching the curb here. Left-hander at turn 5, you have to be very careful in cold tyres conditions. Very easy to lose the rear end on that bump as we brake just on the slip road. Down into second gear, holding the apex and holding the curb. Keeping it nice and tight, looking for the braking point on the right hand side. Again, that's just that little bit of the slip road there. Cutting across the grass, trying to get as much onto the power as possible to carry you through this long left-hander before we go down into bus stop. And you can see from this camera just how banked this corner is. Looking for the 200 metre board on the right. Careful over the curbs, putting as much as possible without getting enough track. And back on the power through the second long left-hander. This just goes back to what Jacob was saying at the beginning of the session, is that there's so much of this track which is on full power that it's definitely going to be a struggle for the drivers to do any sort of fuel saving here. So Tommy Vidal does go quicker at the 145 flat.
Yeah, you can't do the what it used to be called the esports line into turn 1 now. They have added a off-track and slowdown there now. You used to find if people would go really deep and really wide at turn 1, just to open up the corner. But at the start of this year, before the Daytona 24, they actually patched that.
Yeah, I remember seeing, especially during the IMSA races, you'd see the GTPs pretty much going about 6.5 miles off track
Yeah.
to sort of cut back into turn 1. I think it's definitely kind of cool to see as well, is how track actually evolves over in terms of real time, in terms of updates and how they choose to handle things and some of the scans that they do here. Definitely keeps things interesting.
I mean, Daytona is kind of one of iRacing's staples for the Daytona 24. I'm pretty sure out of all of the special events, I think Daytona 24 is the most popular. I'm not sure whether maybe Spa is getting up there, but definitely one of the most popular special events for the 24-hour races.
It's usually the first one of the year as well. I think that definitely gets people back into it and excited for the entire year of sim racing. As we
I
are
was
looking
just
at
watching
George.
Anders Upbit, and he had a lap and a really good tow from the car ahead, and then he runs out of fuel before the line. Could have been a really good lap for him. He's going to struggle to get out and do anything now. It's only 3.5 minutes left. Definitely won't get his tyres warm.
George Ward in the Apex Bandit livery for the Porsche 911, currently sitting in 14th on 47.9. George mentioned to me earlier, there's a couple of corners here that are quite easy to catch you out, turn 5 being one of them, especially on cold tyres.
Yeah, that kink GT3 on cold tyres is interesting. You think it would be just flat out easy, but it's not. It's because you have to run such low downforce here because of the long straights. Yeah, the car can get sketchy in those like high speed corners. I think also turn 7 going back onto the oval. It's quite hard to get the power down sometimes. You see some people spinning there as they try and get back onto the oval. But it's also really important to get a good exit there because you just got such a long corner, a long straight / corner because it's on the banking after that corner. And if you get wheel spin there, you're just bleeding time all the way up until the bus stop.
I think it's definitely one of the big struggles about having long straights is maximising that corner exit. You don't really care sort of where you brake in terms of your entry. It's just really focusing on getting on the power as soon as possible, because it's so easy for the car ahead of you just to sort of pull away, and there's nothing you can really do about it. For about another 2.5 kilometers.
Yeah, I'd much rather lose a tenth on corner entry than on the corner exit. Lose a tenth on corner entry, and as long as you get the exit right, you got to gain all of that back, if not more, on the straight.
One person I am looking to see come out on track is Duncan Andrews. He's running the Ferrari 296. I'm going to guess it's the Barbie Ferrari livery. I know he had a couple of network issues a couple of weeks ago, which seem to have been resolved from Spa. So it'd be really nice to sort of see him out on track, but still waiting for that one. Alexander Higuera, again another driver driving Ferrari 296. Ferrari new 296 not as popular as it has been over the previous weeks. As we come into the final minute of qualifying. So yeah, everybody watching the stream, thank you for joining. You are about to watch the 1 hour race here at Daytona International Speedway. Kicking off in just a few moments. If you haven't already, feel free to drop me a follow or a subscription. I'll be streaming on TikTok, Twitch and YouTube. Aiming to do this every Monday, we have done for the last couple of weeks. I know it's a Tuesday today. It's the first time that we've actually delayed the session. As Alexander Higuera into the pit lane again. That sort of shows how challenging that pit entry can be, in terms of you are flat out and you're trying to judge where your braking point is to maximise your entry into the pit lane without getting black flagged for being too quick.
Radio check.
Loud and clear.
Yeah. Thanks. Anyhow.
So just before the race gets started, guys, if we do bring out the safety car and we do issue wave bys, if anybody that is being waved by can pass on the right hand side and traffic behind the safety car stays on the left. It will be a double file rolling start. Any restarts under safety car will be single file.
Hello, everyone. I am the person that you're probably going to end up hating, so I am the steward for this race. Please make sure you can hear me throughout the race. I will do incidents and give penalties as needed. If you already hate me, then I don't care. One thing just to note, we are going to try something this race in terms of the penalties, where if we see someone do an overtake, push someone off, and it isn't maybe necessary, like worthy of a drive-through, we will ask on the radio for you to return the position, and then if you don't, obviously then you get the drive-through. That's why it's good to make sure you have the radio enabled and you can hear me, because if I give you that call on the radio, I'll try to do it in chat as well, but you might not see it, and then you don't return it, then that will be a drive-through. Incident responsibility for being a dick. George Ward, 30 seconds, stop, go.
Have you considered voice acting?
I think I should, man.
So, taking a look at
Can we pay
the
off the tour?
starting grid here, we do
Bribes
have
are accepted.
Tommy Vidal starting on the front row of the grid in the Porsche 911. We do have Gus Jonker from the Netherlands starting on inside of P2. Second on the row, we have Ethan Turner starting P3 in the Ford Mustang GT3, and Dale Smallshaw, two British drivers driving the BMW M3. P5 and 6, Cooper Atherton and Owen Newman. P7, Karstien Havdal. Be an interesting one to watch how he does during this race. Joined alongside him by Anders Utvik. John Durbridge, another British driver, starts in P9 with Nico Balderrama in the Porsche 911 starting in P10. Yeah, Nico Balderrama looking to hopefully improve on last week's position after the few incidents that he had. P11 Ken Backen, P12 Morton Dale. And George Ward and Alexander Higuera starting at the back of the grid. As we do keep an eye on the front runners at the moment of Tommy Vidal, who is going to be setting the pace for the beginning of this race behind the safety car all eyes on Tommy Vidal as the safety car does jump back into the pits.
Green flag, green flag.
And Tommy Vidal looks to have gone early. Gus Juncker falling in just behind. Ethan Turner looking for a move around the outside in the BMW. Falls in just behind Gus Juncker. Everything looking clean so far. All the drivers looking nice and tidy through turns 1, 2 and coming into turn 3. As we see a move there from Owen Newman, who Dale Smallshaw does go defensive and he slammed the door on him there. As there looks to be a small incident at the back and someone has gone off. That does look like that was Owen Newman spinning out there. We'll have to have a look at that to see exactly what happened.
Good job, dude. You're so good.
Nico Balderrama already up 3 places after starting P10 on the grid in the Porsche 911. Gets a really good exit. Coming into the first long banking left-hander. Tommy Vidal in P1 not able to pull away just yet.
Slowly.
You're very quiet on Iracing chat, by the way. Arbor, cheers for the follow. Welcome into the stream. How are we doing? Everything else looking fairly clean so far. They're asking you just to repeat your investigation.
Incident between casting and service under investigation.
As we keep an eye on Ken Backen, who's already fallen quite far back, 2 seconds behind MP Burley in the Porsche 911. Gus Jonker closed the gap on Tommy Vidal in the Corvette Z06, looking to hopefully take lead of this race. Ethan Turner following closely behind in the BMW, in the Ford Mustang, should I say.
How strict do you want me to be with this? Casting kind of just moved over on the straight, hit Owen, spun him out, ending his race.
If Owen's race is ended.
Yeah,
Then
I'm thinking it wasn't like really heavy contact, but I think just moved like he wasn't there.
I'll leave it to your judgment.
Well, I was going to say drive through, but you know.
I mean, if he doesn't come back out, if he stays in,
Owen's gone. He's disconnected.
okay, then just ignore it. There's no point. There's not a lot of drivers in this race, so.
Yeah.
So we are running on board with the top 3 runners: Tommy Vidal, Gus Jonker, and Ethan Turner. Ethan Turner going right to the outside of the track there in the Ford Mustang. Tommy Vidal making up time during the start of the race already.
Severe warning, but because
0.4 seconds up.
we're gonna let you off, but don't do that again.
As we're starting to see lap times start hitting the board, as Gus Jonker running in P2 does put the fastest lap in at the moment, the 1:46 flat. That Corvette really making up time in the first and second sector of the circuit, where the tight turns are. Tommy Vidal easily sort of pulling away as we get onto the straights. Gus Jonker there giving him the flash of the headlights, letting him know he is right behind him. It's anything like the previous laps, we will see Vidal start breaking that gap again as we get onto the faster parts of the track. So just to recap on what happened to Alexander Guerra, just loses it on the long left-hander as we come onto the first banking left of the circuit.
Yeah, it's really easy to get wheel spin there. Just coming out, trying to get a good exit onto the straight. As soon as you get wheel spin, it just spits you out.
Just as anticipated, Vidal already breaking that gap again. I think one thing that
Hamilton has gone out at the bus stop. He's right to the back. I think he's avoided the walls though.
yeah, it takes a little bit too much curb as it comes into the bus stop. Does manage to hold the brakes, keep it out the barrier. Manages to just break that traction control to 180 the car and get the car back onto the track. And that is one thing, yeah, I was mentioning just before we looked at that replay there, is one thing that I found here running Daytona was that even when the car ahead does pull away on the straights, you can really quickly make up that time again during the braking of turn 1. Just changing your line slightly, braking more on the outside of the track, giving you more braking time. Not necessarily quicker, but definitely helps you get back into the toe of the car that is ahead of you. So we've got a battle here for P4 at the moment, as we're watching Nico Balderrama chase down Dale Smallshaw.
We have cars dropping like flies here. Morton Dale spins in the kink, puts it in the wall. Not looking good for him. We also had John Durbridge spin in turn 1, and he didn't hit anything, but he decided today wasn't his day, parked it up, he's gone.
As Dale Smallshaw goes down the inside into the bus stop chicane. Sorry, Nico Balderrama manages to take that position away, holding now P4. To start in P10. Already made up 6 places within the first 4 laps of this race. Dale Smallshaw looking to come back now, found himself in that slipstream. Side by side as they cross the start-finish line down into turn 1. Nico Balderrama holding the inside line. Dale Smallshaw has to back out, falling just behind. And again, yeah, that is one of the good things about Daytona is turn 1, whilst it's a great place to make moves, it's also an easy place to defend. If you just hold that inside line, it's incredibly difficult, especially now with the track limits on the outside of turn 1 to really make any reasonable move around the outside.
Yeah, I think the main overtaking point is probably either bus stop or maybe it's the horseshoes. Turn 1 can be a bit tough there. The cars are already so on edge as they come off the banking that you kind of have to be on a certain line, and with the track limits now, it's actually quite tight in there. If you go up the inside, most of the time it ends in death. The top 3 certainly have pulled away, but they're all just in a slipstream battle now. And you can Turner at the back, he's getting the run on Gus now. See whether he can hold it through the bus stop. And it's actually both of them really catch up to Tommy. Yeah, very much a train going on here. See which of those cars is going to get the advantage on the straight line speed. Porsche, I'm pretty sure, is one of the fastest here on the straights. I'm not really sure about the Corvette. Tommy managing to hold them off.
Not quite close enough to get a nose into turn 1, but see that gap between all 3 of them close up as they all trying to get as late as possible on the brakes to close that distance. As we come down into turn 3. Turn 3 always a tricky one in these in some of the longer races where you see cars coming out of the pits, as braking point for that corner is right on the pit exit. Ethan Turner just having a little moment there, coming through turn 5. Almost shimmies the car to the outside of the track over the small bump on the inside.
I think Gus has the pace. See whether I think it's just the slipstream isn't powerful enough against that Porsche. That Porsche's really got straight line speed. Just kind of being pulled along.
As we do ride on board with Gus Jonker. It's 173 miles per hour before the braking zone at the 150 metre boards. Has to tap the brakes, I think, a little more than he wanted to there, which compromised his exit. That's giving Tommy another flash of the lights. Not sure if that's I am faster than you or please let me go through.
That Porsche really has straight line speed. You would have thought, with how close he is to the slipstream, he would be right past him there. I have a feeling even if Gus gets past where he's looking for the move, goes to the inside, he holds it, he's given room, and that is him into P1. Question is, does that put Tommy?
It's definitely opened the door for Ethan Turner.
He looks around the outside. That's not going to work. He needs to slot back in here. Now let's see whether the Mustang has the straight line grunt to get past the Porsche.
As it has just flagged up that Ken Backen is driving slowly on track. I'm not sure what happened to him.
Just outbraked himself.
Yeah, just a little too late on the brakes. Dips the wheel into the grass and has to almost just drag that car back onto the road to get some grip. Then obviously looks under pressure from Alexander Higuera behind him.
Seeing the difference now with when the Porsche's in that tow, he's really closing up to the Corvette, but when the Corvette was in the tow, it didn't do anything. Gus now has to be on the defense. Tommy to the outside, backs out of it, doesn't want to take it there.
I think Gus Jonker looked at what he was doing there and thought, hey, if you're going to the outside, I'm closing you off, you're going to have to brake earlier than I am. Gus Jonker gets an incredible exit out turn one. It's half a second between them. I think this is what we saw when Jonker was chasing behind. When Jonker was behind Vidal, we were seeing that he was closing on the twistier, tighter sections of the track, and he's also just pulling away now. He's in the lead, so it's going to be a question of is the setup or that car, that Corvette Z06, just outperforming the Porsche all round here.
I think the Porsche only really has one playing card here, and that's its straight line speed. When you get to the infield, that Corvette is just faster.
And we do take a look at George. Well, no, that was Ken Backen's incident. I'm not sure why we're seeing that one again. This was a incident with George as he was coming out turn one and just loses the rear end and taps the nose that car. Oh, don't back up there, George. Taps the front end of that car on the barrier. When I saw that car rolling back, I didn't think that was going to end well, but George, being very observant of what's around him, holds off and does manage to rejoin safely.
Just spun at the bus stop and he flipped the tyre barrier with the rear end and his wing just fell off. Be interesting to see whether he realises that and pits.
Yeah, well, we'll soon enough find out as we go in.
I know,
he's in.
Yeah. I was waiting just to see a flying car in turn one.
Let's see what happens. See again, it's too much curb, and that the teeth on those curb again really sending that car outwards. It's a bit unusual to lose a rear wing just through sort of car vibration without really hitting anything.
It did. He made contact just with the tyre barrier on the rear. It like clipped the rear wing and just knocked it off.
Not ideal for Garstein, but does come in for that fast repair. He's already on his way out the pits. All that effort to make up places at the beginning. He's now down 4 places on his start position of P7 down into P11 as Anders Udvik does manage to get past there during that pit stop.
Gus
Tommy Vidal and Ethan
breaking the
Turner.
toe.
Ethan Turner
this is
looking
where
to
Ethan's
get
got the
moved on
chance.
here.
Tommy is starting to just about drop out of that slipstream. He's going to lose a bit of that straight line advantage. The Mustang does have some straight line speed, so this is where I think Ethan has really a fairly decent chance of getting Gus. Tommy, sorry. Tommy still has a bit of slipstream, so still a bit of protection, but he's slowly losing it.
Turner late on the brakes, holding the gap there to Tommy Vidal. Tommy Vidal closing that gap on Gus Juncker through turn 1.
Yeah, Gus went deep in turn 1, but even on the straight, start of that straight, Tommy was 1 second back. By the end of that straight, he was 0.3. It's really got some straight line speed, that Porsche.
So you are watching the battle here for P1. Gus Juncker, Tommy Vidal and Ethan Turner have been at it since the start of this race, almost the third 20 minutes into this race. No one's really broke apart. I think this is definitely going to come down now. They might be thinking about the fuel strategy into this race. When are they going to be pitting? Should be in the next 10 minutes or so.
I think I heard one of them lifting a bit there in the bus stop, so maybe a bit of fuel saving going on. I think it sounded like Ethan.
I suppose that is kind of the perks of running P2 at the moment. Instead of that up front position, is you can use the guy ahead to save that tiny bit of fuel without losing too much, knowing that he's not going to break away from you.
He's got the run here.
Tommy Vidal almost pushing him along through the start-finish line, goes to the outside. Gus Juncker goes defensive. Vidal falls back into position. Ethan Turner a little bit deep into turn 1, compromising his exit. It's Tommy Vidal all over the back of Gus Juncker now into turn 3. All drivers bumper to bumper. I think this is going to be a close battle for the first stint of this race.
I think realistically here, if I was Ethan, I'm thinking about the fuel saving now. Like, you haven't really got much pressure from behind. This top 3 pack is breaking off from the rest of them. If you just lift here, stay within the tow, you'll jump these guys in the pits.
I think that is going to be a real problem for Gus Juncker. I think he's so focused on maintaining the lead of this race. I think he's going to come off worse out of the pit stop strategy.
It's almost a bit like a NASCAR race. Sometimes you don't want to be leading. You're just punching a hole in the air for the rest of the drivers.
Ford Mustang GT3 of Ethan Turner really attacking the curbs into bus stop, more so than the other 2 drivers.
Once again, Tommy is closing. He looks to the outside. Don't think he's going to make a move there. I think this is what we were really saying at the start of the race. The slipstream is so important here. And just because you can get into the lead, it's so hard to break away. Even though I think, you know, in completely clean air, I think Gus has the pace to win this race, but he's just pulling Tommy along and Ethan along. So they can just sit there saving fuel and having a shorter final stop while Gus has to push flat out to stay ahead.
One thing that I don't think we should really shy away from is Nico Balderrama running in P4. We know from previous races that he's been doing some incredible fuel strategies in order to gain positions through the second stint of the race, running 6.2 seconds behind the front runners at the moment.
I mean, he can probably gain a bit. I don't think he's going to gain enough unless he can make it so he doesn't have to do the splash and dash at the end, which I think is going to be really tough here.
Just a warning if we have to pit at the moment in the green. I have never done a pit on this track before, so I have to go through and brake for pit entry.
And I don't think we should tell him.
No.
That should have been part. That's the whole reason that we run 45 minutes of practice. The whole point of running practice is to be able to find potential fuel strategies, see where you can save fuel, figure out where your pit entry is, your pit exit. Coming into this race and not doing a single fuel stop is not the way that you want to treat one of these races. Especially
I've done it a few times. Got into a race, not practiced enough, and in fact they're like, wait a second, I don't even know where the pit, how to do the pit entry here, and you either go balls to the wall and end up getting a drive-through or a time penalty, or you play it way too safe. And when you're bunched up like this, if you're playing it safe, you run the risk of people just driving right into the back of you.
Yeah, I think we had a similar incident last year at Spa 24. One of our drivers hadn't done a pit entry, a pit exit through the endurance pit stop, where it's the full length of the Spa circuit, and ultimately we got a penalty there. As we are now watching Ethan Turner nose to tail with Tommy Vidal.
He's got a bump draft, yeah. He's bump drafting and he's got a lift here, save some fuel. I think he's being smart here. He knows the game. This is pack racing now. This isn't try and get overtakes. You've got to work strategically. Because he knows if he tries to go for that overtake, it's going to lose both of them time, and then they're going to drop out the slipstream with Gus. And with that Porsche straight line speed, I think if Ethan starts getting aggressive and gets past him, Gus is just going to come right back past and slip.
So we are expecting some of the drivers to come into the pits in the next 3 or 4 minutes, as we do see Gus Jonker getting a little bit tail happy through the midpoint of turn 1, loses a bit of time on the exit. You okay to just cover for like 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So yeah, I think Tommy is also playing the strategy now. I don't think he's going to be looking for the overtake at this point. He's just, hopefully, if he's smart and he knows what he's doing here, he's looking for fuel saving, which won't necessarily gain him the position in the upcoming stop, but it probably, most likely, will require a splash and dash pit stop, probably about 10 minutes before the end of the race. And that is where the fuel saving is really going to come in, especially if he's been fuel saving for the entire 50 minutes. That's you know, a good 3-4 second advantage he can get in that final pit stop, and that will put him into the lead of the race. If he, that was a lot of curb there. I could have seen that spinning him into the barriers, but he manages to keep it. It is probably the closest he's been here. Let's see whether he does think about a move. Or are they going to come into the pits? Staying out. He's thinking about it. Oh, as he touches the rear and he unsettles Gus. getting a bit feisty now. Deep into turn 1, he's opening the door. Does Tommy think about a move? He's got the run. Gus goes defensive. The outside isn't going to work there.
There's Nico Balderrama already into the pit lane. Cooper Atherton also joins him.
I think Cooper Atherton's pace is actually pretty good. He's lapping around the same, I think, as some of the front runners, at least in terms of the fastest laps. So we'll see. Maybe he might be able to try and work his way back into it, but with these guys working in a pack, it's going to be really hard to gain. I think you can tell that some of these guys have been fuel saving in the front. You know, other people are already having to pit, and these three are staying out. We'll see whether Gus has to pit first. I don't think he's been able to fuel save.
Just watching the replay there of Morton Dale. Just again, a lot of these drivers finding bus stop tricky, especially with those straight curbs.
Yeah, there is a line that you can take where you can hop those curves, but you got to be really precise with it. If you're slightly off, slightly too much over the curb, you just get spat out. As they're all looking at pitting, and that's a bit of, as they're now 3 wide in the pit lane. I might have to review that from Tommy hitting Gus.
So they will get a fast pit in the pit, so it won't cost him much. And I don't think
It's whether
either
Gus
of
got a
them...
black flag for pit entry.
No, I went too far forward.
So Gus did not get a black flag.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we let that one slide, seeing as they would get a faster pit anyway.
Yeah.
So any damage that either of them got would both be getting that essentially for free.
Gus, did
think
you
that
get a black
was-
flag for that?
Yes.
Sorry, I would have tried to clear that, but I think you were reserving it, I assume.
Yeah.
So Gus has been given the black flag for that pit entry, and that has put him out. I think with the black flag, and might have to take a look at that again. I don't know whether that was just Gus moving out, like he kind of.
So I
did
think,
go wide.
well, Tommy Vidal obviously pushed him over the line.
It wasn't being pushed over the line. It's the fact that he went off the track into the grass and then came back into the pit lane.
Right. We could do like maybe a 5 or 10 second time penalty.
We'll have to get them to serve that himself.
I can serve that for them.
What, can you actually do that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you just want to just quickly re-review that before we issue that.
And the thing is that Gus sees the room on the outside, and the room is there, and it's a very wide pit entry. Oh no, so Tommy does, but then Tommy just turns right and goes straight. I'm almost saying that's racing incident. The room was there to go round the outside in that pit entry, and Tommy weaves over to the right. I'm gonna say no further action on that.
Okay, that's your call. I suppose the underlying question though is, was the reason for his black flag because he was pushed to that part of the track?
The reason for the black flag was because he was hit off the track, but I think the actual contact was not necessarily Tommy's fault. Gus moved to the right quite erratically, and Tommy had no time to react.
So it was a moving under braking.
Yeah, if anything, it was Gus's fault, and he got a penalty for it.
Okay, I will I'll leave that to your discretion.
Pit entry incident reviews, and they come in just no further action at this time.
So if you are joining us over on Twitch, YouTube and TikTok, first of all, welcome into the stream. We are 30 minutes into this race. We've just seen our first pit stops of the race. Feel free to drop me a follow. I'll be posting all the highlights on social media within the next couple of days for this race. Be sure to come and check out the Discord, which is where I will be posting any upcoming races over the next couple of weeks before the website is released.
So Tommy has had a
Hello.
better pit stop than Ethan. I think the Ford is actually not as good on fuel. I think it has a larger fuel tank. So Tommy now 1.8 seconds ahead, and Ethan is out of that tow. But we did see that the infield section is not a strong point for Tommy. So let's see whether Ethan can close that gap. If he gets back into the slipstream, I think Ethan's got this.
I do think this second stint does come down to that potential fuel saving, and it could even be a case of people playing this smart and maybe just over fueling the in fact no, we can't over fuel, can we, because of the IMSA regulations.
Yep.
Completely forgot about what we've got there. But yeah, we're definitely going to hopefully see some fuel saving, see if people can get to the end of this race. I still think Nico Badarama and Karsten Havdal are ones to look out for during this. Tommy Vidal, even though he's a 5k I-rated driver.
Ethan into the wall at the bus stop.
We'll take a look at what happened to him in just a second.
He is kind of just stopped. I feel like he hasn't got that much damage. He may have given up.
So yeah, a bit of front end damage there. It's again tricky coming into the bus stop. Chicane is now falling down the grid as
Yeah, he towed.
he has towed back to the pits. Tommy Vidal comfortably ahead now. 18 seconds as he also dips a wheel into the grass, potentially looking to just chase lap time here. MP Burley into the pits.
Black flag in the pits. That's not going to help his race.
There's George Ward into bus stop. MP Burley bouncing all over the curbs on the exit. That straight line speed of that Porsche will allow him to just break that gap. George Ward coming from P13 in this race up into P10. Great thing to see from the drivers is the lack of incident points. Spa last week, we were seeing the incident points racking up and racking up. We saw a few disqualifications due to hitting that incident point limit. One of those drivers, George Ward, who we're currently watching at the moment, sitting here with just 9 incident points. Now up into P9 as we have drivers in the pits. And P. Burley been in the pits for a considerable amount of time, showing that he's going to be a retiree of this race.
Ethan Turner also still in the pits. I think that is him out the count. Shame we were having a good battle for the P1 spot there, but a couple of incidents that have now given Tommy a really good lead, and I have a feeling he's just going to walk away with it now. If he's smart, he's not going to overpush this. Got the gap. Let's bring it home.
We'll see if we can have a quick chat with Ethan just to see what happened there. How are we doing, Ethan?
I
So yeah, we were watching you for some time battle for P1 alongside Tommy Vidal and Gus Jonker. What happened there coming into the bus stop?
Yeah, no, I saw he was getting away, and I was just pushing way too hard, and I hit that curb at an awkward angle, and it sent me packing into the barriers.
Unfortunately, I think we were both looking at you potentially coming back at Tommy Vidal during the second stint of this race to potentially fight for the win.
Yeah, I was hoping to do so. I done quite a lot of fuel saving on my first stint, and then I missed my pit stop. I was too far forward, so that cost me probably 2 seconds. So I was just trying to get back into a position to hopefully have the win. But yeah, I ended up pushing too hard, and it got me.
Yeah, some really good pack running there, and you could tell that all three of you were playing more of a strategy game, not setting stupid moves, and getting the fuel saving. Had an incident, obviously, with Gus going into the pit lane. Not with you, but with Tommy in front, which I think you may have had a front closing on the C4. I'm sure if you were side by
Yeah,
side.
I did indeed. I absolutely nailed the pit entry. I ended up side by side with all of them when I was quite far back coming into the pits. Yeah, just absolute shame. Um, I found myself almost hitting the back of Tommy a few times under the braking. I felt a lot more confident on the brakes.
Yeah, that Porsche, like we were seeing it before the race, the slipstream, and even the straight line speed, when he was in the lead of the pack at the start, it was looked pretty horrible in the infield, but it got onto the straights and it was blue.
Oh yeah, definitely. Same behind it. I felt like I had some really good exits, and it would just start pulling away. I was like, wow.
One thing we spoke about at the beginning of this race was how difficult it was going to be to sort of hold that fuel saving strategy, especially with the amount of time that drivers are going to be spent on throttle around this track. How was you hoping to manage that? Was you hoping to get away with a one-stop strategy? Or as we do see George Ward losing it in turn 3, loses the rear end and cuts across the
Calm down
grass.
there, George.
Yeah, I was doing quite well on the fuel save. My plan was
Is
just
George cutting it off?
into every heavy braking zone, give it lifts everywhere. I don't think the one stop is possible. I was calculating the fuel, and it's definitely a two stopper here.
Yeah, with all of the straights that you got here, it's so. Well, I don't know the percentage, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 85% full throttle, maybe even 90% full throttle. It's really hard to fuel save a lot. I think some of
Yeah,
the other circuits you could, with a fair bit of fuel saving, get that down to a one stopper here. Definitely not.
yeah, no, very very difficult to do so. Yeah, I found myself, even with the major lifts that I was doing, I found myself closing right up to the back of that Porsche, and then as soon as we got to the oval, it was just way out ahead.
We
I
do
think
actually
that's what
see Gus
we
Young has pinned it in the bus stop. It's all unraveled for him. He's leading the race for a long time. Has that incident in the pit, which, whilst he got hit from behind, he did kind of move over quite aggressively on the pit entry and kind of caused the contact himself. Ended up being, well, I kind of deemed it a racing incident. Sucked he got the black flag, and now he's put it in the wall, have to drag it back to the pit lane, so it's all unraveled now.
just going back to the strategy as well. I think we were saying that sometimes it doesn't pay to be sitting in P1 around here at Daytona. It's very easy to just want to keep that gap, especially with these long straights where it's easy for drivers to sort of sit in that slipstream. I suppose that's kind of where you were at with the sort of P3 for a while, is you kind of had that sort of free ability just to sort of lift and coast and not lose too much.
Yeah, definitely. I was worrying quite a lot over the first 2 to 3 laps, because the car behind looked like he had the pace to stay with. But once I saw that he had lost it and that there was a 2 to 3 second gap, I was at ease with lifting and coasting. I feel like I could have got an extra lap of fuel out, but I also feel like it wouldn't have been the great move. As you said, the slipstream is really powerful around here. I was really hesitant to make any overtakes. I feel like P3 right there was definitely the best position for me. As clean air is very nice, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's just huge for lifting and coasting around here.
Yeah, the
Awesome.
slipstream being really important. Just punching a hole in the air. It was kind of like almost a NASCAR race for a bit with you guys.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thanks
So
for having a chat. I suppose one final burning question is how excited you're going to be for Sebring next week on Monday?
Oh, that track I cannot wait for. That is my bread and butter. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, thank you for
Awesome.
having me, guys. Enjoy the rest of the race.
Thank you very much. That's it. You just heard from Ethan Turner. Fortunately, didn't work out to be the best race for him as we hit the second stint of this race.
Martin Dale, another victim of the bus stop, just spitting out. I think he might have kept out the wall, but good for him. That bus stop has killed a lot of people today. We are down to, I think, 9 drivers left on track.
Just taking a look back at the incident with Gus Jonker getting a little bit loose on the exit of the bus stop, hitting that wall, which is definitely going to completely ruin his race, unfortunately. Morton Dale also struggling with the exit curbs there. Managed to keep it out of the wall, but ends up in no man's land down at the bottom of the banking left-hander.
I wonder how these guys got on in Daytona 24, because if they can't do a 1 hour race without spinning it out 3 times at the bus stop, imagine how they're going to do it at the 24.
Came back in incredibly late on the brakes, unable to get the car turned in, but does manage to stop before what could have been a very damaging head-on collision with the barrier of turn 1.
He was just sightseeing there.
Dale Smallshaw currently running now P2 due to the Gus Jonker and Ethan Turner incidents. Very promptly under attack though from Cooper Atherton, who's currently less than a couple of tenths behind, sitting in that slipstream, looking to make a move here. Goes up the inside. Who's going to be later on the brakes into the bus stop chicane? Cooper Atherton does manage to make that stick. Gets the front of the car. Almost pointing at the sky there. Terrible exit.
Prepare for liftoff at destination Daytona Airport.
Dale Smallshaw manages to reclaim that position, but for how long? As Cooper Atherton again with the straight line speed of that Porsche. Less than 2 tenths behind. Across the start finish line down into turn 1 as Cooper Atherton looks to go up the inside, but chooses to back out there. Tommy Vidal in the pits. It's an 8.4 second pit stop.
I think it was his last splash and dash. A bit of an early pit, but I think he's fine. In terms of maybe just he caught some lap traffic and wanted to get out of it, getting cleaner.
So currently watching our race leader, Dale Smallshaw, could be due to the irregular pit stop at the moment, so don't take that P1 for a penny at the moment. Very much still under attack though from Cooper Atherton. Cooper Atherton with incredible straight line speed around these banking left hand corners.
Goes for the
banking
outside.
Left hand straight.
And yeah, that Porsche is just going to fly. Don't know whether Cooper's going to try and keep it on the inside here. I don't think it's even possible. Yeah. Cooper's already through. Dale has to back out.
Atherton really late on the brakes there to make that position stick. Runs a little bit wide on the exit, which I don't think is going to compromise him too much, but might just allow Dale Smallshaw just to stick within that slipstream window. Less than half a second.
Dale pits. Interesting to see where they come out at the end of this. You would think if Dale is pitting early, he's going to have a longer pit stop, because he has to put more fuel in to make it to the end.
So everyone from Tommy Vidal to the back of the grid has made 2 pit stops during this race. Dale Smallshaw obviously in the pits at the moment. Nico Balderrama and Cooper Atherton still on a 1 stop at the moment. Tommy Vidal back up into P3, so Cooper Atherton and Nico Balderrama still yet to pit as we just keep an eye on those pit stop timings and the pit stops up on the timing tower.
A little bit of a fight forming for the last position on the road between Morton Dale and George Ward. Both Porsches, so you can't say that one of them is going to have a straight line advantage over each other. Morton in tow of George at the moment coming into the bus stop. Looks like I think maybe Morton had a bit of a better exit. Fairly even with bus stop. We'll see whether that slipstream will give him a chance into turn 1. I mean, the gap's closing, but I really think it's going to be a bit of a late move if he does try into turn 1. He's looking for the inside. George is giving it outside. He goes for. Can he brake late enough to get around it? I don't think so. George looks like he's very late on the brakes here. He does get it stopped actually. I was quite surprised there.
Well, I guess the rear end nice and loose there. Great rotation into turn 1. Managed to make that stick. Incredible driving from George.
I mean, Morton could have looked for a dive up into the horseshoe, but I think he knows that the best place here is just to get the slipstream. You have got Ken backing up the road as well, so you don't want to lose too much time fighting. Just get past on the straights and maybe start looking at getting Ken back as well. Tony Vidal is showing up as... No, he hasn't crashed. My incident log giving me an error there. George is managing to kind of get a better exit, I think, out of the bus stop.
It's George Ward on the previous lap. Getting a little bit too tight with the rotation and losing the rear end. Manages to keep it out the wall that time though.
It's 0.3 now. I think this possibly could be an opportunity for Morton.
How are we doing, Nolan Tenney? This is the Remo Public Open at the moment, so broadcasted and hosted race. If you're interested in taking part next week, we're going to be at the Discord. Link is in the bio. We'll be running GT3s at Sebring next week.
Morton just a bit too late on the brakes there, can't get it stopped and turned in. He tried the outside, it's going to work out for him.
Currently streaming over on Twitch and YouTube as well, so if you fancy giving me a follow over there, that would be much appreciated. And you'll be notified every time we do one of these broadcasted races. Roster, cheers for liking the live. Nolan Tenney, cheers for following. Thanks for the support.
And George has decided he doesn't really want to have this fight anymore. He wants to go cut some grass.
Yeah, unfortunate for George, he's been looking pretty decent around here for the first sort of 40-45 minutes of this race. Yeah, kind of almost a number of consecutive incidents. So everyone out of the top 10 is out of the race. The field has opened up a little bit.
I think George may have parked it, which sucks. I think he could have carried on, but that looks to be George out of this race. Only 8 runners now. Daytona has not been kind.
Yeah, I'm still really wanting George to sort of do well at these races. I've been watching sort of his growth since the beginning of the year when he first got into sim racing, and I mean I think it's fair to say that his driving and his racecraft has definitely improved over the last
I
7
mean, actually,
months.
looking at his I rating, I know he's doing a extreme thing at the moment. It's road to 2K. 1.6, 1.3, 2 games. He's getting there. I think the Porsche is just a bit of a tail-happy, difficult car to drive to. It's probably the fastest, just with the straight line speed, but yeah, it's very easy just to loop that on the infield section.
So it's funny, a lot of people who don't drive the Porsche say the same thing about the Porsche and how sort of tricky it is to sort of keep the car stable. But it's kind of funny, is like it's the car I've probably driven the most out of all the GT3 cars, and I think I find all the other cars in the GT3 class I would say the same thing about. So I generally think it's something that Porsche drivers or non-Porsche drivers tend to say about the Porsche because they're not used to driving the Porsche. But I think once you do sort of get to grips with it, it is actually quite an easy and fun car to drive. But
No,
personal
you're just
opinion.
weird, mate.
I mean, I think the stats go to show that it is complete survivability with the Porsche because I think was it 8 out of the final 9 cars, or sorry, 6 out of the final 9 cars are Porsche 911s.
Yeah, I think here it's one of the only tracks where it is really competitive, and everyone else has kind of just parked it.
As Cooper Afton, who was leading this race, comes into the pits, Tommy Vidal reclaims that P1 spot. Looking to see where Nico Balderrama comes out. Currently also in the pits. Is he going to get the undercut on Cooper Atherton? Cooper Atherton is already coming out of the pits, so quite a lot of work to do in the final 7 minutes of this race. But yeah, we can definitely see how the fuel is definitely being used a lot more than we've seen at previous races. Again, going back to that, most of the track here is full throttle. I think most of the drivers were getting through to the sort of last 2 or 3 minutes before, or 1 or 2 minutes of the race before needing to do that final splash and dash, but 7 minutes to go. Final drivers have taken their second pit stop. As we can see on the timing board at the moment, yeah, it is Porsche that is claiming this race.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Dale's got much chance here. He's out the slipstream. That Porsche straight line speed, he's just got to pull away now. Unless we have another bus stop moment, which certainly could happen.
Dale Smallshaw 1.5 seconds behind. He's got a lot of work to do on the infield section of this track to make up that space on Atherton. We've seen for the last sort of 55 minutes how quick these Porsches are on the straight and fast parts of this track. That gap already building to over 2 seconds.
Yeah, just on the exit of bus stop and down the straight, Porsche just runs away with it. I think next time you go to Daytona, you might as well just run Porsche Cup.
Just having a look at the incidents at the moment. Tommy Vidal, 10 incident points, would have claimed at least 4 of those during the first pit stop of the race. No one's looking sort of close to the 25 incident point cap limit at the moment.
Not a
I
massive
think-
amount of places you can get off tracks here. Like turn 1 maybe, but it looks like everyone's being pretty cautious there. And the bus stop, you can get an off track there, but a lot of the time, if you're getting an off track at the bus stop, you're also dying. So, you know, if you're keeping it alive, you're not getting off tracks there.
I think it's also been quite nice to see the lack of student needed involved in this
no.
race.
No
Lack of-
penalties so far. I mean, Karstein probably deserved the penalty, but it was lap 1. And yes, he did make a bit of a stupid move moving over, but a bit of Iracing netcode also kind of bounced the other car out. Like, if the netcode didn't
think
do that,
if-
it wouldn't have been a big spin like that.
I think if the other driver involved sort of continued with the race, then potentially that might have had a different outcome. But I think at the end of the day, if someone's going to leave the race after a small incident, which potentially might not have cost them too much, then
Yeah, I mean, that's repair.
I think there's no point penalising another driver. I think, especially if
I mean,
it
if it
wasn't
happens
sort
on
of
another lap.
blatant or obvious.
It was pretty obviously a dumb move, but a bit of netcode helping in there as well.
Arstein Havdal, 4 seconds behind Nico Balderrama. 2 of the regular drivers in these sessions. So the question is, has everybody got their fuel strategy right?
I mean, you'd hope so. It's not like people are really trying to stretch the fuel to make it to the end. It's kind of impossible to do a one-stop here, so everyone had a chance to get that final bit of fuel in. If anyone's running out of fuel here, they've definitely made some big mistakes.
Arstein looking comfortable and consistent through the bus stop chicane. See the timings closing that gap ever so slowly, but it is closing. As it comes across the start finish line to start lap 33 out of potential 35. Braking at the cones on the left hand side, down into 2nd gear, getting the rotation into turn 1. Keeping tight over the curbs, braking at the pit exit line, down into turn 2, touch the apex, let the car run out wide over the white line to the curb. Up to 5th gear, keep the car flat and pinned through the left-hander, touch the curb, braking on the service road on the left. Arstein Havdal with a very wide line compared to a couple of the drivers. Cuts the curb, nice and short over the grass. On to the never-ending left-hand turn here as we head on down into the bus stop chicane. Looking for the flag board on the right hand side. Be careful not to attack these curbs too much since the update. As we've seen, it's definitely caught a couple of drivers out today.
Vidal has taken quite a time to you.
So final lap of the race, Tommy Vidal. Some incredible battles during the first stint of this race with Gus Jonker and Ethan Turner. We definitely heard a Porsche there over the radio. Tommy Vidal through the bus stop for the final time. 16 seconds lead. This could have been a very interesting final stint of the race if Gus Jonker and Ethan Turner were still in this race. But Tommy Vidal, 1 hour of racing, 35 laps later, does come home to finish P1 in this race in the Porsche 911.
Someone send a sheep with me on that.
Cooper Atherton comes home to finish P2. It is a Porsche 1-2 here today. Dale Smallshaw unable to fight for the final moments there with Cooper Atherton, comes home, finishes P3. Nico Balderrama started P10 in today's session, made up 6 places. Most places made up of any of the drivers in today's session, comes home and finished P4. Karsten Havdal in P5, great result again for Karsten. Andreas Utvik, the one and only driver driving the 720S today. Slightly off pace from the other drivers of his fastest lap time in the 146s. Most of the other drivers into the 145s. That might just be McLaren things here, but comes home to finish P6. Ken Backen with the fuel saving strategy over the last couple of races, unable to make that work for him today. Comes home to finish P7, closely followed by Morton Dale there in the RWA liveries for a photo finish for P8.
Yeah, I thought he got a slow down there, but I think he slowed down on purpose just to get a photo finish with his teammate over the line.
So some notable mentions today. George Ward started off running pretty well in this race. I think after the second stint, a couple of incidents caught him out and unfortunately retired. Gus Jonker was running up in P1 for some time, had a little bit of a coming together into the pit entry in the first stint with Tommy Vidal, and that cost him a stop and go during his pit stop. Unfortunately ran into another incident in the second stint which put him out of the race. Ethan Turner, again one of those front runners fighting for P1, unfortunately had an incident into the bus stop chicane, clipped the curb, lost the rear end, and ended up causing some front end damage into the bus stop. Duncan Andrews unfortunately didn't manage to start this race. We'll have to check in with him and see what happened with him later on. So what are your key takeaways from the race today, Jacob?
Everyone needs to learn how to take the bus stop properly. I think 95% of the drivers in this race I would not want to be on a team with the Daytona 24 because they would crash. Like even some of the people who did finish this race, where a lot of them did not. Most of them, at least one moment where they spun out at the bus stop. So yeah, I think people are a bit out of practice with Daytona. It's been a while since it's been on the schedule. It is coming up for the end of this season on the IMSA schedule with the Global Endurance Tour 24 as well. So that will be interesting, getting people back into the kind of Daytona 24-hour mindset. That race does also not have BOP because it's not a special event. So if you're driving GT3, I think by looking at this race, you know what car you're driving. Porsche. That's going to be a Porsche Cup. The straight line speed advantage of the Porsche definitely made it the car to pick. Basically, everyone else who wasn't in the Porsche was kind of just left out to dry on the straights. They couldn't really do anything about it.
So yeah, I think that does just about sum it up. So here we have the final race results of today's race. 34 laps, Tommy Vidal comes home to finish P1, Cooper Atherton P2, Dale Smallshaw P3, Nico Balderrama comes home to finish in P4, Karsten Havdal in P5, Anders Utvik in P6, Ken Bakken in P7, Morton Dale finishes P8, George Ward unfortunately retires from the race to finish P9, and Gus Jonker, also another retiree of this race, finishes in P10. So just to recap on a couple of moments from today's race. Just re-watching the beginning of this race just to sort of take a look at what happened. Everyone actually making it through turn 1 nice and smoothly. Which is always good to see, especially from some of these public open sessions. This was the incident from Owen Newman.
I just realised he didn't even hit the wall. He didn't even need to take a faster there. Yeah, I think Karsten may have deserved the penalty there, but I mean, Owen just kind of gave up.
You see a lot of incidents here at the bus stop. A lot of the drivers are really struggling today here at bus stop. Dale with a big crash. Apparently had 15 pit stops during this race, unfortunately.
That's once every like 2 laps.
Every 2 laps, yeah. One of the first incidents from George that just put him in a little bit awkward position there to try and rejoin the track.
Yeah, when you're in the really practice spots, when you spin there, you have to wait so long. That's when you lost his rear wing.
This is one of the could have ended in absolute tragedy for Gus Jonker and Tommy Vidal here.
Yeah, I was very close to being just could have turned him so easily there. And if I saw it, that he was definitely going to drive through. George doing some lawn mowing.
Not necessary from George. Heard Daytona is pretty well maintained.
Every little helps.
And yeah, this is the incident that took Ethan Turner out of the race after fighting here in that top 3 battle for most of the first stint.
Some more grass cutting there.
So Gus Jonker again struggling with the exit of the bus stop chicane. Morton Dale for his 10th incident during this race. Saw this one earlier on in the race, came back in struggling to get the car stopped and turned in, almost ends up in the tyre barrier.
I can confirm that that line is not optimal.
George Ward having another loose rear end into turn 1. Turn 1's really not a spot you want to be losing the car. Puts you in such an awkward position to either rejoin the track or, for a start, rejoin safely. Obviously you can't drive through that pit wall on the left hand side to get the car turned around, so if you end up facing it, that's kind of all you've really got to do, is you can back up, and it can be really tricky to see who's coming around turn 1 in order to find a gap in the traffic to get your car safely back on the track. George Ward just losing the rear end. Again, I think George's really struggling with the sort of some of these setups that they're running. We know that the Porsche has quite a loose rear end. So, yeah, that does conclude today at Daytona International Speedway at the road circuit for the Remo Public Open. We are going to be running a session next week. Next week we will be at Sebring the same time, but we will be running it on Monday as per usual. So next week, Monday, I believe that's the 13th, if my maths is correct. Monday the 13th at 8 PM BST time. Details will be posted in the Discord for that session as well. So if you are wanting to come and join, feel free to head on over to the Discord, where you'll find all of the details for next week's session. But yeah, big thank you to Jacob Reed or Burnett Racing 7 over on social for helping steward, even though not much stewarding was needed today, but
know,
for
I
being
was
around
quite
to
bored.
commentate too.
I wanted to be, slamming that hammer, like pissing people off, giving them drive-throughs, and everyone was kind of pretty sensible, which is surprising.
Yeah, if you haven't dropped me a follow already, feel free to drop me a follow. Come and follow on the Twitch and YouTube channel as well. I am streaming on all 3, including TikTok. I will be live every Monday. Your support, you guys turning up as well, goes a long way in keeping me motivated to do this. But yeah, that's going to be it from me today, and I'll catch you all on the next stream.